When we are young, it is difficult to say no to our relatives. When the mother-in-law arrives, the daughter-in-law never reproaches her. On the contrary, she does everything as her husband's mother says. How could it be otherwise? Firstly, she is his mother, and secondly, she is an elderly woman. Elena's husband came to the city from a small village. They studied at the institute together, and after graduation, they got married. Elena's parents gifted them a one-room apartment where the young couple started living. Her beloved son's mother suddenly began frequent visits. She came supposedly for shopping or medical checkups and always stayed with them. They would set up a folding bed in the kitchen for her. Mrs. Serafima constantly taught Elena what to do and how to do it. The young daughter-in-law did not want to quarrel with her, but she constantly had to make an effort just to keep quiet. Usually, these visits lasted for 2 or 3 days, and then the mother-in-law would return home. Elena tried talking to her husband, but nothing changed. She can't stay at a hotel, can she? Her husband wondered. Why not? Thought Elena to herself. Gennady was very thrifty, as Elena realized, it ran in the family. But she loved her husband. One day she suggested that Serafima Borisovna stay with her parents, but she categorically refused. I came to see my son, she said proudly. Elena and Gennady had a son. The mother-in-law began visiting even more often. She explained that they needed help, and that Elena couldn't handle it alone. Elena's mother worked and often traveled, while the mother-in-law only managed her household and garden. It was a treat for her to go to the city and teach the young daughter-in-law. Now she stayed for 2 weeks, completely settling in the kitchen. Gennady bought a small sofa for his mother. The mother-in-law took over the cooking. Usually, it was greasy cutlets, hearty soups, and dumplings. Elena didn't dare enter the kitchen. The plump Mrs. Serafima took up a lot of space, and when she was cooking, it was impossible to pass by. Elena barely ate the food her mother-in-law prepared, while Gennady praised it. He was always happy with his mother's visits, and Elena had to keep quiet. She loved her husband. The mother-in-law often reproached Elena, saying she bought too many things for the child and that there was no place left for toys. She poked her nose everywhere. Elena had developed a nervous tic at the news of her mother-in-law's visits. She returned from maternity leave, and her son started kindergarten. With some satisfaction, she told her mother-in-law that her help was no longer needed to such an extent. The mother-in-law was silent. Elena relaxed, but it was in vain. Gennady surprised her. You understand, my love, my mother and I decided to sell her apartment in the district center. She wants to move to the city to be closer to me. Her health is not the best, and I can't visit her often. So, let's think about it. What is there to think about? Elena tried to hide her disappointment. Yes, you understand, Gennady rejoiced, we decided to sell this apartment and buy a nice 2-room one. Then my mother will live with us. Elena didn't know what to say. I don't want to live with Mrs. Serafima, she whispered. Why? Gennady didn't understand. She is our son's grandmother. You know, my dear, I'm not ready to live with your mother all the time. 2 housewives in 1 kitchen can't coexist. Gennady didn't expect this. Elena had always been silent, obeyed her mother-in-law. And agreed with him. Wait, Elena. Firstly, I am registered here, and I am our child's father. I believe I have the same rights to this apartment as you do. Elena didn't say anything about the apartment rights. Her father had bought the apartment in her name. Some time later, Elena received a call from her mother-in-law, who immediately began to accuse her. Aren't you taking on too much? The husband is the head of the family, he decides everything. Gennady told me that I could come and stay with you as long as I wanted. We will all live together. I can't keep visiting so often. I need to see doctors, and my son will be nearby. So, Elena, choose either we all live together, or you lose your husband. At dinner that evening, Gennady was silent, but then he couldn't hold back. Did you threaten my mother that you would kick her out and not let her see her grandson? I didn't say that. She visits us, but we won't live together. The apartment belongs to me, and I will decide. Elena, wait. We are married, the apartment was bought for our wedding. I am our son's father, and I am registered here. So half of the apartment belongs to me. My mother can stay here as long as she wants. But you understand that it's crowded. So the only solution is to do as we decided. She sells her apartment, we sell this one, and buy a bigger one where we will all live together. Elena went to her mother and told her everything. Daughter, why didn't you speak up earlier? I didn't know Mrs. Serafima had settled in your kitchen. Of course, we need to clarify who has what rights. After all, your father bought the apartment. I will find out everything, and you and your son move in with us. Why should you be stressed there? If your husband loves you, he will choose you and your son, not his mother. What do you think?